So this week, the Packers face off against the Minnesota Vikings at home at Lambeau Field, which means Aaron Jones will be making his return to Lambeau Field after leaving Green Bay this offseason and deciding to sign with the Minnesota Vikings. And earlier today, Aaron Jones wrote a post or article for the Players Tribune, and it's titled A Message for Green Bay, and it's a really, really good article that he wrote. And so I'm going to leave the whole thing linked below. I'm going to share a few parts from it that I've found the most interesting. And as a Packers fan reading it, it made you feel pretty sad that Aaron Jones is gone. You can tell how grateful he is to the organization and all the years he spent in Green Bay. And it's never fun to see a guy leave the Packers, especially one like Aaron Jones, who I think was one of the most beloved Packers players for the time that he was here. Very looked up to by the fan base, by the players in the locker room. And so that's why it's just tough to see these kind of guys end up leaving Green Bay. So you should check out the whole thing. But I want to share a couple quotes from this article. And first off here, he's talking about early in his career when different players were helping him out and believing in him. And here's an interesting one. Quote, "I also remember the very first time I played an offensive snap. It was week 4 at home against Chicago. Both our main running backs had gone down, so it's only me and our fullback left. I run onto the field, and when I get into the huddle, it's crazy. A-Rod, he just looks at me and says, 'Hey, I am one of your biggest fans in this entire organization. It's your time, yours right now.' And then he said, I ended up scoring, and we won that game." So he brings up how Aaron Rodgers comes in and tells him he believes in him. Before this, he mentioned how Devontae said a similar kind of thing to Aaron Jones. And it's cool to see a player's progression from coming into the organization as a rookie. And so often, some of these guys take some time to develop. Even Devontae, his first couple of years in Green Bay, he was not the player that he is today and was in his later years with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, becoming one of the best receivers in the NFL. And so, on the one hand, it's sort of crazy how quickly these players' careers go, in an organization. And, pretty quickly, it felt like Aaron Jones, obviously it's been a while since he came to Green Bay, but a guy who was here for 7 years, now no longer on the roster. But it's cool to look back at some of those early times in his career. And then he said this is more to the fans. "It wasn't just my teammates who made me feel seen in Green Bay, it was our fans too. Especially in those first few years when I was trying to make my name in the league, I think people started to notice that good things would happen when I had the ball, and they wanted me to be more involved. So they started tweeting with the hashtag Free Aaron Jones. I know it's just a hashtag, but I won't lie, that was cool. Every time I saw it in my mentions, it reassured me I wasn't going unnoticed. Our fans understood how hard I was working to make things happen, and I fed off of that." And then one of the final things I'll touch on is he brought up when his dad passed away a little bit after he signed his contract with the Packers a few years ago. And he brought up how Matt LaFleur, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst, and the Packers running backs coach Ben Simmons flew down to Texas for the funeral. And he said, "To say they didn't have to do that is an understatement, and I know I could never repay them on a football field, so I'll just say thank you." And so it's cool to see that and sort of how the organization came around him during that time. And here's how he ended the letter. And as I said, feel free to go read it. I'm going to link the whole thing at the top of the description. He goes into a lot more than I shared here. He says, "That's the biggest thing I want to write here, not just to the Packers organization, but really to all of Green Bay. Thank you. It's going to feel strange being on that visiting sideline for the first time and being on the other side of this NFC North thing in general, but it's all love, and it's so much gratitude. Thanks for betting on me, riding with me, hashtagging for me, and everything else. Thanks for seeing me. No G on the helmet Sunday. Always one in my heart, Aaron." So it was nice seeing that because I think, when he left Green Bay, joining the Minnesota Vikings, you could tell that he was, it seemed to me that he was a little bit hurt that the Packers organization, didn't want to pay him what he thought he was worth. And the fact that, after all that he sort of did for the organization, the success he had even late last season, the fact the Packers were willing to move on from him if he didn't take that, pay cut that the Packers wanted him to. And so it's good to see that he still, has a place in his heart for the Packers. And I imagine, moving on was probably tough. I think it was tough for us Packers fans as well. And so, I think that Aaron Jones is always going to be a Packer at heart, even though he is in Minnesota. It's going to be unfortunate to see him on the Minnesota Vikings. And so I enjoyed reading this, and I think you guys should go check it out and read the whole thing as well. But if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.